Brilliant. Brad, if you could just walk us through the timeline of Callum Watkins' return, if you could, please, first.
Well, the timeline of that will happen pretty quick. Sort of, um, believes he's done a good job. He's always looking to strengthen our squad and our roster and add a bit of depth. And like that's a sign of a club that wants to do well and build. So he's going to be a handy addition for us. That little bit of experience. It's probably a nice story, similar to Hawley. About being at the club before and coming back to the club. So um, he won't play this week. He did a light session with us today. And then he'll be ready to go to start next week and see where he fits in.
Given the fact I think you've played Salford a couple of times in your time there, how much were you sort of more broadly aware of Callum Watkins as a player?
Oh yeah, but I knew even before I got over here, I knew a little bit about him and his quality. And obviously he spent a bit of time over in Australia. So, but yeah, the couple of times we have played Salford, he's been dangerous and a threat, and someone that we've had to make sure we're aware of, and his carry.
Your back row's been probably the more consistent part of your team
Yeah,
this year. So where do you see Callum fitting in?
our forward pack has been really consistent, and I've been really happy with him. He just adds that um, extra level of depth, experience. Like I feel like at times in big moments, I'm really happy with the football that we've been playing. I think, like the results aren't consistent, but our performances have been consistent. They've been the same, and and then the same things that we probably got to get better at it have been consistent. Like around some big moments, and then our responses to them. But I feel like we've been really good effort wise and physically. And the last three games, we've had to play Saints, Wigan, and Warrington, and all three of those games, I believe that we should have won. I feel like we were the better team for longer periods of the game, but in some of the big moments, and our responses weren't great, and that's where he can be of help. Just around that experience and staying calm and composed and sticking at it. Yeah, so that's where he'll be of value. But in saying that, I'm really happy with the forward pack. But I like the idea of having the guys looking around in the dressing sheds and knowing that there's 12, 14 really good forwards and where they fit in, and it keeps them on their toes, doesn't it?
It does indeed. I'm not saying that group at the moment lacks leadership, but the fact that Callum brings that, is that an added bonus really to his return?
Yeah, and I'm similar, James. I'm not saying that we lack leadership, but the more leaders you can have, the better results you're gonna get, and more leaders creates more leaders in the group too, because they know what leadership actually looks like. Um, and that's the bit that I can't provide to them. Look, I can help them with that part of it, but actually what it looks like on the field under pressure, and I'm not out there, so that definitely helps, mate.
Was the question asked of whether he could play on Thursday, or were you sort of resigned to the fact that he wouldn't?
No, I always thought it was a good thing for both clubs and respectful to both clubs that, I've told him I don't even want him to come to the game, just watch it from home on TV. Get his, it's been obviously I don't know, but I'm sure there's been some difficult times for him. But just to focus on being around his family and clearing his head and coming back with a bit of energy for us next week to start training. So, out of respect to both teams, and I feel like it's best that he doesn't play. And I'm pretty sure Salford were of the opinion as well.
Given there is so much going on behind the scenes there, are they a difficult team to prepare to face because of that?
Yeah, there's that unpredictability in there, which is always and risk free and no pressure football from their part, which is hard to prepare for. But it's just about us, and like we walked out of that Warrington game, and those three performances, and we hopefully the players have talked about, well, that has to be the minimum standard of how we play now. with that level of effort and physicality and intensity that we played with. And that has to be the minimum, and it's just an improving when we get put under a bit of pressure or we're in the game in those moments, how we own them, and then when we can't own those moments, how we deal with it and respond to it. So that's the bit that we're focused on. And there's going to be times in the game that we're going to be doing a lot of good things, and there's going to be times where we've got a few things wrong. It's how we deal with it and what comes on the back of it, mate.
Just wanted to mention Presley Cassell. I think it's the first time he's been involved in the 21-man squad. What can you tell us about him?
Prez has been doing a good job in the lower grades. He'll join us in the next week or two to full-time training. He might have been pushed. His name might have been there a bit early if he'd been full-time training, but he's going to join us within the next week or so of being in every single day. He's had his education requirements that he had to fulfill. And also, like, we don't have many more names to put in the list. The rest of the guys are injured, so but he's earned his right to get his name there in consideration.
And with Brody out, the spine changes again. It's something you've had to get used to, haven't you, this year? Could you give us an insight into your thinking ahead of
Yeah,
Salford?
it does. But I spoke to those two halves this morning, Fralls and Jake, and like they're in a pretty good position because the forward pack's doing a good job of laying a foundation. We're playing good field position. I think we're ranked in the top couple for where we actually start our sets. We're not having to carry the ball too often off our try line. Like we've presented good field position. So they should enjoy that opportunity. You've got Harry and Ash and Hawley returning the ball for them strongly. So it's not like they're playing off the back of nothing. We're actually providing a platform. So it's a good opportunity for them, to get on top of their game.
Just lastly for me, obviously, like you say, Salford are an unpredictable side and probably have nothing to lose. When you come up against a side like that, is it a temptation for the opposition to start playing the same way, or do you have to sort of implore your players to just try and keep it simple and do what you've been doing so far this year?
Yeah, well, it's for me, and we talked about it as a group, like I just said there, I reckon we're consistent on how we're playing. I know the wins, we need to have more of them and be consistent with the result, but we're consistent on how we're playing. We need to continue to do that. And it's like I said, it's just those moments or periods in games where, a bad moment and then we double it up with or triple it up with another bad moment, and then it just becomes a little mini period in the game where we've let a bit of momentum get the better of us. So it's about getting on top of that. That's more our focus. Yeah, and matching that intensity because I'm really happy with the intensity and the buy-in and the effort. And like I said, the effort's good, the physicality's good. Principally, we're good. The buy-in's good. We just got to make sure the results are there all the time on the back of it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brad. I'll pass
Thanks,
you over.
mate.
All the best for Thursday.
Thank you. All right, Pete, there you go, mate.
Yeah, good, thank you. Just on Callum, do you see him as an out-and-out second rower now? In his
No, not
previous
really.
start, it was
No, he can. Because look, I think James talked about their back row's been really good. Those guys are getting good minutes out. They're doing their job every week. They give me flexibility. I like that as a coach. Callum gives us flexibility. He can back row, can cover in the centres. Like if you got an injury or something like that during the game, and I think he can be better served and also serve us as well in the middle. Without Cameron there at the moment, he can play that ball playing tight role, but he can carry as well, and he's principally and work ethic in defence would be good in the middle. So he gives us options, mate. But that's still to come, and that's more next week. I'm still, the focus is around what we need to do tomorrow.
Will Jake Connor be continuing with the goal kicking this week?
He will be. Yeah, he will be. He's been working hard on it. He's aware that like we need to improve in that area, but he's training, and he's been practicing a lot. We've got Lockie there as another option, and he's been doing a lot of work on it as well.
And there's been some speculation in the Aussie media about your about your future this week. I don't know if you've seen that. Is there anything
Yeah.
you can update us on or tell us at the
Yeah,
stage?
well, mate, it was just purely a conversation and around my future, and it's the same. Like, of course, I'd love to be back. I'd love to get an opportunity coaching in the NRL and being, but the situation hasn't changed for me. I've got two boys that have been away for 9 months, and it's tough for me. It's hard, and you know, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling about being away from them in the next 2 months, let alone still doing another 7 months. So that's just I'm a dad, and my youngest boy makes his debut for Newcastle this week, and now I'm not there. Like I'm not fulfilling my dad duties. So that's the hardest bit for me. Is purely family, because in terms of job satisfaction, I love it here. I really do. I love my job. I'm enjoying it. The people here are great. I like working with this team. I feel like we're getting better, and I feel like we're still gonna get better. And I also believe that probably need another real full pre-season, and like the finished product is a 12 or 18th month job with these guys. But the club's building strong. Bleasy's putting together a good list. Paul Caddick's committed to putting together a good team and having good staff, which we've got. But both those guys are aware there's no pressure from the club. We sat down last week, me, Paul, and Bleasy, and discussed it. And until they need a dead set cut-off date and an answer but they're comfortable at the moment just letting it flow, because they understand it's just a family situation, mate. Like it's as simple as that. Yeah, like, and it was just a conversation, and now it's turned into a media story. But it's the same answer I've been given. I reckon I've been honest and consistent the whole way through. Yeah, job satisfaction is great. Just miss me boys and being a dad and being around my family.
Yeah,
Which I hope everyone understands,
can
mate.
understand that. Yeah, I think everybody understands that. Thanks, Brad. All the best for tomorrow. I'll see you over there.
All right, thanks, Pete.
Yeah. Hey, Brad. It's James.
James, how you going, mate?
How are you doing? You got me? Yeah,
Good,
good,
mate.
thank you. Yeah, just following up on that quickly. The quote said Leeds want you to stay. Has that come in the form of a formal contract?
Well, the option has always been, there hasn't been a formal offer, but there doesn't need to be, because we've got that relationship and trust, and like if I want to stay 1 year, 4 years, whatever, like like it's not that's not the issue. It's like I said, it's just me being in a position where I say to Ian and Paul, look, I want to stay, and then we'll work out the rest of it from there. But it's not about money. It's not about term length of the term. It's just purely whether I can be away from me two boys for much longer. Like, that's the hardest bit for me, mate.
Yeah.
So there's been
Have you
nothing
given yourself
formal,
a
but
deadline to
like,
make a decision?
sorry, mate. Yeah, there's been nothing formal, but I don't need anything. Like, it's just me making that decision that I want to stay, and then we'll work it out.
No, good stuff. Yeah, just saying, have you given yourself a deadline to make a decision?
Well, I haven't, because, like I said, I don't know how I'm going to feel next month. Like I'm going to have to sit here this weekend and watch a young bloke, play his debut for his new club. And like, I know I can't be there for every game, but that's going to be hard. It's hard. It's going to be hard on my wife and daughter. So, look, I don't know how I'm going to feel in a month, let alone there's still 7 months to go before I get to see him again. So but at some stage, I get the club needs to make their decision, and I'm quite open and honest with them, and I'll understand at some stage they're going to have to put a line in the sand and say, well, we need to know what you're doing. But what I do know is I'm committed to helping the club now and next week and in 5 months' time, and setting the club up for long term. And I feel like the playing group and where the staff are at the moment, they know exactly what's required, and around expectations and standards and to be successful, and that they can be driving it themselves. So I feel like whether I'm here or not next year, the club's in good hands, mate. And I think the evidence of that of Ian with the recruitment is part of it.
Has it been harder than you anticipated being away from family?
I hadn't had the chance to anticipate it because I was only coming for 10 weeks, and because I love, my job and the place and the players, and I've seen opportunity, and I've seen some commitment from those guys moving forward. That's why I stayed. So I wasn't sure what to expect, because I didn't really have an idea of what I was going to do. And it's the same as right now. But if I was pushed for a decision right this minute, right here, sitting here now, I wouldn't be able to commit to anything for next year, because once I make a commitment to something, I'm not going to turn my back on it or walk away from it, or so that's why I'm not prepared to commit anything right this minute.
It's just a shame we're not the next island along from Australia. Would it be an easier decision there?
If what, mate? Sorry?
If we were in the next island
Yeah.
across from Australia, would it be an easier decision?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it's like it'd be nice if we could just jump on, like we play Thursday and we've got the weekend off, so it'd be nice if we could just get on the plane for 2 hours, go back, watch him, and come home. That'd be easy. But yeah, it's what it is. But like I said, I'm committed to the club and the job, and I know there's probably a lot of people that don't like or maybe don't understand my position, but that's what it is, and the players understand it, the club understands it. I'm committed to it, and I know the club's in good hands with or without me, mate, moving forward.
And given the sacrifices you've made, how determined are you to make this a successful season?
Yeah, I want to, whether I'm here next year or not, to set it up for next year for myself or another coach and the club. But I want to make sure that people were happy with the decision to get me over here. The players learnt something off me. They become better players, a better team, and better people. And I've learnt something from it and got something out of it. So that's my main goal. Yeah, we'd love to be, playing at the right end of the season, which that's what we're all working towards. But I just want to make sure that, the club, keeps getting better with each game and each season from here on.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Brad. All the best for tomorrow.
Thanks, James.
Hi, Brad. It's Martin here from League Express.
Martin, how are you going, mate?
Not too bad at all. And just congratulations on Kallum Watkins signing. I think it's a great signing for you, and certainly extends your squad depth. And it just leads to my question, really, because now that you've got him on board and hopefully with no injuries or no more injuries to any other players, you've got a selection dilemma in a sense, which you've already sort of alluded to in deciding when and where to play him. I just wonder whether you'll be tempted to give some spells to players. The difference between us and the NRL is that we play a much longer season, and in that sense, a more demanding season. And I wonder whether you would think about spelling some players, giving players an occasional weekend off, and maybe putting Callum in or whatever. Or are you always going to pick your best team every weekend, come what may?
No, that's a good question, and I'm relatively inexperienced in that sort of decision making, that part of it, because of the difference of the two competitions. So yeah, I take your point, but it's something that I will consider. And it is a long season over here, with the 27 weeks straight. So yeah, that's something that I might consider. It's very hard often to tell players that, because they want to play. They don't want to just train. They want to play. That's what they get paid for. That's what they love doing. So to convince the players probably, the hardest bit. But what it does is, not you don't have to, if blokes are 50-50, you with the depth, then you don't have to push blokes when you can probably afford to be a bit, safer with your selection process if a bloke's not quite 100%. But in saying that, what rugby league players 100% each week, they're always carrying a bump or a bruise here or there or a niggle. But we can just be smarter with our selection process. But it just things change, mate, week to week. You could be flying with no injuries, and all of a sudden you get a couple. So you just don't know. And I've stopped, and I've learned as a coach not to try and predict what's happening next week, let alone in 4 weeks' time. So just get through tomorrow and see where we end up on Friday.
Absolutely, and I sympathise with you on your point about your kids. There's nothing worse than being 12,000 miles from your kids, especially when they're doing, notable things like making a debut. I just wonder, Brad, you're going to have 2 free weekends coming up soon: the Challenge Cup semi-finals in May and the Challenge Cup final in June. Could you not sort of sneak in a quick trip back home on either of those two occasions just to make contact with them again, and just that would certainly ease your mind a bit, I would have thought.
Oh, mate, Martin, I'd love to do that. And, like I'm not, the reason I've been honest with everyone and talking about my family, I'm not looking for, I know you didn't mean it like this, but I'm not looking for sympathy. It's just the truth of my situation. And I just hope everyone understands it. And, yeah, look, we're still training in those weeks, and I do give the players, like 3 or a 4 day break in those to break it up a little bit, but it's just not enough time for me to get home and get back and do the job properly here, because like I said, I'm committed to my job here, and my kids wouldn't expect me to come home and do this half-hearted. So like I'm all in doing this, and that's the choice I made, and that was the choice we made as a family. So I'm all in doing it, and they knew that I wouldn't get back to seeing them until October, and they're actually coming over here in October once their season's finished. So they're going to come over here and spend a couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. But there's plenty of hard work, and enjoyment to come for the rest of this year with this team and this group that I'm coaching at the moment.
Okay, mate. We'll all watch out for your lad making his debut this weekend, hopefully.
Oh, it's his club debut. He played a couple of games last year, but so we've actually seen his debut. So it's not.
All right.
It's just his new club's debut. And, yeah.
Hope it goes well, mate. And thanks a lot, Brad. Cheers, mate.
Hi there, Brad. It's Aaron. Hope you're well.
Aaron, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Just to shift gears a little bit. Ethan Clark-Wood's not in the 21. Is that an injury or?
He copped. In the last minute of the game last week, the reserves game, he scoring a try, he just got put in an awkward position. He's got a syndesmosis. So it wasn't a major one, but it's like a 5 or 6 week injury.
That's a bit of a blow for him, because I imagine there would have been probably an opening to force his way into the 17 this week somewhere.
Yeah, it is a shame, but again, like I said, we're adding a bit of depth to our squad. You just never know. Like we got through that game, and with the 2 minutes to go, I started to pack me bags and walk out, and then we get an injury right at the death. So
obviously you brought Ethan in and you brought Callum in. Do you envisage that's you done now in terms of mid-season recruitment?
I think Bleezy still might have a little bit left there in the cap, and like he's always, as a good club does, just being patient with it. But if there's ways we can improve the squad, we will continue to do that, whether it be for this year and next year. And that's the sign of a club that wants to do well. So, but, he's been very strategic with what we want to do in recruitment, and just, getting blokes for the sake of it. It's got to be with the long-term, view of helping us now, but it helps us long-term as well.
Just lastly, I think you were quite vocal in pre-season about Ryan Hall's role was obviously to help on the field, but obviously to mould some of the young guys like Harry Newman and people like that. I guess Callum's got a similar job. I think lads like James McDonald, Morgan Gannon, he can really help them develop, can't he, as well?
Yeah, he will. And, look, I haven't put that responsibility of pressure on him yet, but he knows that that'll be part of his job moving forward, and just let him settle into the place, and then he can start to have those conversations with blokes like him and Hawley often happen, without my knowledge and in the background. And, you can see the effect that Ryan Hall has managed to have on working with Harry Newman. There's a lot more composed, and and he's still got a fair way to go with it, Harry, and he's aware of that. But you can see he's a lot more composed on the field and less reactionary, as well. And he's probably playing more consistent from a week-to-week basis and over an 80-minute period. Harry is at the moment.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.